A student's overview of the Ageless wisdom was carefully compiled from the following books by Alice A. Bailey. A Treatise on Cosmic Fire. Esoteric Psychology, Volumes 1 and 2. Esoteric Healing. Esoteric Astrology. The Rays and the Initiations. Students are encouraged to download the free PDF version of this overview by following the link in the video's description, or to order a printed copy at cost from thebookpatch.com, but are advised to read the original, unabridged books in order to gain deeper insight into the ageless wisdom. Students are also invited to join our online study group at facebook.com/groups/students of the ageless wisdom. Chapter 53 Esoteric Healing. Correspondences for the eye. The third eye head center will, Atma. The eye of the father, the monad. Shambhala. The first aspect of will, or power and purpose. Related to the pineal gland. The right eye Ajna center love, buddhi. The eye of the sun, the soul. Hierarchy. The second aspect of love wisdom. Related to the pituitary body. The left eye throat center active intelligence. The eye of the mother, the personality. Humanity. The third aspect of intelligence. Related to the carotid gland. When these three eyes are functioning and all of them seeing simultaneously, you will then have insight into divine purpose, the initiate, intuitive vision of the plan, the disciple, and a spiritual direction of the resulting creative activity, the master. The Ajna center registers or focuses the intention to create. It is not the organ of creation in the same sense that the throat center is, but it embodies the idea lying behind active creativity, the subsequent act of creation producing eventually the ideal form for the idea. Its dense physical externalization is the pituitary body. The two lobes of this gland correspond to the two multiple petals of the Ajna center. It expresses imagination and desire in their two highest forms, and these are the dynamic factors lying behind all creation. It is the organ of idealism therefore, and, curiously enough, it is closely related to the sixth ray, just as the head center is essentially related to the first ray. The sixth is peculiarly linked to the third ray and the third aspect of divinity as well as to the second ray and the second aspect. It fuses, anchors and expresses. This is a fact which I have not hitherto emphasized in my other writings. The Ajna center is the point in the head where the dualistic nature of manifestation in the three worlds is symbolized. It fuses the creative energies of the throat and the sublimated energies of desire or the true love of the heart. This center, having only two real petals, is not a true lotus in the same sense as are the other centers. Its petals are composed of 96 lesser petals or units of force, 48 plus 48 equals 96. But these do not assume the flower shape of the other lotuses. They spread out like the wings of an airplane to the right and left of the head, and are symbolic of the right-hand path and the left-hand path, of the way of matter and the way of spirit. They constitute symbolically, therefore, the two arms of the cross upon which the man is crucified. Two streams of energy or light placed athwart the stream of life descending from the monad to the base of the spine and passing through the head. 3. The throat center. This center is to be found at the back of the neck, reaching up into the medulla oblongata, thus involving the carotid gland, and down towards the shoulder blades. It is an exceedingly powerful and well-developed center where average humanity is concerned. It is interesting to note in this connection that a. The throat center is ruled by Saturn just as the two head centers are ruled respectively by Uranus, ruling the head center, and Mercury, ruling the ajna center. This is only where the disciple is concerned. The rulership changes after the third initiation or before the first. These three planets constitute a most interesting triangle of forces, and in the following triplicities and their inevitable interrelations you have, again only in the case of disciples, a most amazing picture story or symbol of the ninefold of initiation. 1. Head ajna, throat. 2. Third eye, right eye, the left eye. 3. Pineal gland, pituitary body, carotid gland. These present the mechanism through which the spiritual triad, the soul and the personality work. The key to a right understanding of process lies in the relation of the three planets, Uranus, Mercury and Saturn, as they pour their energies through these 9 points of spiritual contact upon the physical plane into the grounded sphere of light and power which is the man in time and space. b. This center is related to the first initiation and develops great activity when that point in experience is achieved, as it has been achieved by the vast majority of men who are at this time the aspirants and the probationary disciples of the world. Forget not that, technically speaking, the first major initiation from the hierarchical angle is the third. The first initiation is regarded by the masters as signifying admission to the path. It is called an initiation by humanity, because in Lemurian days, it was then the first initiation, signifying entrance into complete physical control. It is the organ for the distribution of creative energy, of the energy of the third aspect by souls at the above point of evolution. There are 3 centers in the human being which are related to and the major expression of the third ray or aspect at certain differing stages of development upon the path. The sacral center for the undeveloped and the average man. The throat center for the aspirant and probationary disciple. The ajna center for disciples and initiates. Here again you have a great triplicity of energies, containing great potencies today, owing to the fact that the expression of the third aspect of active intelligence has reached such heights through human development and consciousness. c. It is related to the personality by the creative thread, to the soul by the thread of consciousness, and to the monad by the sutratma or life thread. It is not related to any of the divine aspects by the antakarana because that thread which links monad and personality directly, and finally independently of the soul, simply anchors the monadic expression of life in the head, at the head center. Then direct consciousness is established between the monad and the personality, and a great duality comes into being. Life, consciousness and form are then all focused creatively and actively in the head, and their activity is directed from the head via the 2 head centers. The ajna center only comes into creative activity when the antakarana has been built. In the earlier stages it is the throat center which is the creative agent, and in the earliest period of all the sacral center is active. You have one interesting thing to remember. The building of the antakarana only becomes genuinely possible when the creative life of the aspirant shifts from the sacral center into the throat and is becoming factual and expressive. Of this connecting bridge, the neck itself is the symbol, as it relates the head, alone and isolated, to the dual torso, consisting of that which lies above the diaphragm and that which lies below, the symbol of the soul and the personality united, fused and blended into one. The head is the symbol of what Patanjali describes as the state of isolated unity. End of page 271. D. It is the center through which the intelligence aspect of humanity focuses creatively. It is therefore the center through which the creative energy of that great planetary center called humanity flows. The three major planetary centers are Shambhala, hierarchy and humanity. When perfection has been achieved, the Shambhala energy of will, power and purpose will pour freely through the head center, the love-wisdom energies of the hierarchy will flow through the heart center, and the energy of humanity will focus through the throat center, with the ajna center acting as the agent of all three. Then will take place a new activity on the part of mankind. It is the task of relating the three superhuman kingdoms to the three subhuman kingdoms, and thus establishing the new heavens and the new earth. Then humanity will have reached the summit of its evolutionary goal on this earth. E. The throat center is the organ specifically of the creative word. It registers the intention or creative purpose of the soul, transmitted to it by the inflow of energy from the ajna center. The fusion of the two energies, thus brought about, will lead to some type of creative activity. This is the higher correspondence to the creativity of the sacral center. In that center the negative and the positive creative energies are embodied in the separate male and female organisms and are brought into relation in an act of creation, consciously undertaken, though as yet without much definite purpose. F. The dense physical externalization of this center is the thyroid gland. This gland is regarded as of supreme importance in the well-being of the average human being of today. Its purpose is to guard health, to balance the bodily equilibrium in certain important aspects of the physical nature, and it symbolizes the third aspect of intelligence and of substance impregnated with mind. It is in reality connected with the Holy Ghost, or the third divine aspect in manifestation, overshadowing, as the Bible expresses it, the Mother, the Virgin Mary. The parathyroids are symbolic of Mary and Joseph and the relation they hold to the overshadowing Holy Ghost. It will eventually be determined that there is a close physiological relation existing between the thyroid gland and the pineal gland, and between the parathyroids and the two lobes of the pituitary body, thus bringing into one related system the entire area of the throat and of the head. G. Just as the head symbolizes the essentially dualistic nature of the manifested God, so the throat center symbolizes the triple nature of the divine expression. The dualistic nature appears fused and blended in the head in the relation between the two centers and their two dense physical reflections. The three great energies which are brought into play during the divine creative activity are unified in activity by the full expression of the energy flowing through the throat center, through the apparatus of speech and the two lungs. You have in this relation, life or breath, the word or the soul, and the throat center of substance in activity. H. This lotus of the throat is inverted in the early stages of evolution, and its petals reach out towards the shoulders and include the two lungs or parts of them. During the life cycle of the soul, it slowly reverses itself, and its petals then reach out towards the two ears and include the medulla oblongata and the carotid gland. This gland is more closely related to the thyroid gland than it is to the two other glands in the head. Thus it will be apparent to you how whole areas of the physical organism can be brought into active and correct functioning, can be vitalized and kept in good and true condition by the activity in some form or another of the center nearest to the area of the body under consideration. It will also be apparent to you that deficiency and disease can result from the inactivity of a center. 4. The heart center. This is located between the shoulder blades and is, in this day and age, the center which is receiving the most attention from those who are responsible for the unfoldment of the human consciousness. It might be truly said, brother of mine, that the rapid unfoldment of this lotus is one of the reasons why the world war could not be avoided. In one sense, it was a necessary happening, given the blind selfishness of the bulk of humanity, because it had become necessary to do away with all the old forms of government, of religion and of the crystallized social order. Humanity has now reached a point of group awareness and of group interplay of a deeply spiritual kind, and new forms were required through which this new spirit could function more adequately. End of page 272. A. The heart center corresponds to the heart of the sun and therefore to the spiritual source of light and love. B. It is brought into functioning activity after the second initiation. That initiation marks the completion of the process whereby the emotional nature, with its outstanding quality of desire, is brought under soul control, and the desire of the personal lower self has been transmuted into love. It is the organ for the distribution of hierarchical energy, poured out via the soul into the heart center of all aspirants, disciples and initiates. In this way this energy is made available and brings about two results. 1. The regeneration of humanity through love. 2. The relationship, firmly established, between a rapidly developing humanity and the hierarchy. In this way two great planetary centers, the hierarchy and humanity, are brought into a close contact and relationship. As the Bible says, the love of God is shed abroad in the human heart, and its transforming, magnetic and radiatory power is essential for the reconstruction of the world and for the establishment of the new world order. Upon the unfoldment of the heart center, and on an intelligent relation of mankind to the hierarchy, with the consequent response of man to the energy of love, all disciples are asked at this time to ponder and reflect, for as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Thinking in the heart becomes truly possible only when the mental faculties have been adequately developed and have reached a fairly high stage of unfoldment. Feeling in the heart is often confused with thinking. The ability to think in the heart is the result of the process of transmuting desire into love during the task of elevating the forces of the solar plexus into the heart center. Heart thinking is also one of the indications that the higher aspect of the heart center, the 12-petaled lotus found at the very center of the 1,000-petaled lotus, has reached a point of real activity. Thinking as a result of correct feeling is then substituted for personal sensitivity. It gives us the first faint indications, likewise, of that state of being which is characteristic of the monad and which cannot be called consciousness, as we understand the term. C. The heart center becomes essentially related to the personality when the process of alignment with the soul is being mastered. This process is today being taught in all the newer and sounder esoteric schools, and has been emphasized in the arcane school from the start. It is that procedure, distinguished by right orientation, concentration and meditation, which relates the personality to the soul, and thus to the hierarchy. Relationship to the hierarchy automatically takes place as this alignment goes forward and direct soul contact is thereby established. Personality consciousness is superseded by group consciousness, and the inflow of hierarchical energy follows as a natural consequence, for all souls are only aspects of the hierarchy. It is this established relationship, with its subsequent interplay, magnetic and radiatory, which brings about the final destruction of the soul body or causal body as the relationship reaches its highest point of intensified recognition. D. It is that center, therefore, in the physical body through the medium of which the hierarchy works. It is also the agent of the soul. When I here use the word soul, I refer not only to the individual soul of man but to the soul also of the planetary logos, both of which are the result of the union of spirit and matter, of the father aspect and the mother aspect. This is a great mystery which only initiation can reveal. E. The heart center registers the energy of love. It might here be stated that when the Antakarana has been finally constructed, the three aspects of the spiritual triad will each find a point of contact within the etheric mechanism of the initiate who is functioning upon the physical plane. The initiate is now a fusion of soul and personality through which the full life of the monad can be poured. 1. The head center becomes the point of contact for the spiritual will, Atma. 2. The heart center becomes the agent for spiritual love, Buddhi. 3. The throat center becomes the expression of the universal mind, Manas. End of page 273. In the work of the initiate, as he works out the divine purpose according to the plan, the ajna center becomes the directing agent or the distributor of the blended energies of the divine man. The heart center corresponds to solar fire within the solar system, and is magnetic in quality and radiatory in activity. It is the organ of the energy which brings about inclusiveness. F. Its dense physical externalization is the thymus gland. Of this gland little is known at present, though much will be learned as investigators accept and experiment with the hypotheses which the occult sciences present, and as the heart center develops and the thymus gland is returned to adult functioning activity. This is not as yet the case. The nature of its secretion is not yet established, and the effects of this gland are better known from their psychological angle than from the physical. Modern psychology, when allied to medicine, recognizes that this gland when overactive will produce the irresponsible and immoral person. As the race of men learns the nature of responsibility, we shall have the first indications of soul alignment, of personality decentralization and of group awareness, and then, paralleling this development, we shall find the thymus gland becoming correctly active. At present, the general imbalance of the endocrine system militates against the safe and full functioning of the thymus gland in the adult. There is as yet an unrecognized relation existing between the pineal gland and the thymus gland, as well as between both of these and the center at the base of the spine. As the spiritual triad becomes active through the medium of the personality, these three centers and their three externalizations will work in synthesis, governing and directing the whole man. As the pineal gland is returned to full adult functioning, as is not the case with adult man, the divine will to good will make itself felt and divine purpose be achieved. When the thymus gland similarly becomes active in the adult, goodwill will become apparent and the divine plan will begin to work out. This is the first step towards love, right human relations and peace. This goodwill is already making its presence felt in the world today, indicating the coming into activity of the heart center, and proving that the heart center in the head is beginning to unfold as a result of the growing activity of the heart center up the spine. G. It is the organ of fusion, just as the head center is the organ of synthesis. As the heart center becomes active, the individual aspirant is slowly drawn into an increasingly closer relation to his soul, and then two expansions of consciousness take place which are interpreted by him as events or happenings. 1. He is drawn into the ashram of one of the masters, according to his soul ray, and becomes an accepted disciple in the technical sense. The master is himself the heart center of the ashram and he can now reach his disciple, via the soul, because that disciple, through alignment and contact, has put his heart into close rapport with the soul. He then becomes responsive to the heart of all things which, as far as humanity is at present concerned, is the hierarchy. 2. He is drawn into close service relationship with humanity. His growing sense of responsibility, due to heart activity, leads him to serve and work. Eventually he too becomes the heart of a group or of an organization, small at first but becoming worldwide as his spiritual power develops and he thinks in terms of the group and of humanity. These two relationships on his part are reciprocal. Thus the love aspect of divinity becomes active in the three worlds, and love is anchored on earth and takes the place of emotion, of desire and of the material aspects of feeling. Note that phrase. H. In the early stages of unfoldment, of both the individual and the race, the inverted heart lotus with its 12 petals reaches downwards towards the solar plexus center. This last center, since Atlantean days, has been reversed, and its petals are now reaching upwards towards the next center up the spine, the heart center, owing to the slowly mounting energies from the solar plexus center which are seeking to escape from the prison of the lower regions through a process of transmutation. As a result, the heart center is beginning slowly to unfold and also to reverse itself. The reversal of the lotus centers is always brought about as the result of a dual action, the pushing from below and the pull from above. The reversal of the heart lotus and its upward unfolding is due to the following factors. End of page 274. The growing potency of the hierarchical approach. A rapidly establishing soul contact. The response of the unfolding heart lotus to the pull of the master's ashram. The surging upwards of the transmuted energies from below the diaphragm, via the solar plexus, in response to spiritual will. The growing understanding by man as to the nature of love. There are other factors but these are the ones you will most easily understand if you will regard them as symbolic and not too literally. Eventually, at the close of the next root race, you will have the full expression of love and the lotuses up the spine will appear, all 5 of them, differing only in the number of petals found in each. Finally at the close of the great world cycle when all the lotuses have reversed themselves, all will be opening and presenting free channels for the inflow and the transmission of the 3 major divine energies and the 4 lesser forces. To this constant movement of the centers and to the constant inflow of energies we can trace much of the discomfort of humanity in its various bodies. It is the inability of the centers to respond or to unfold which in many cases produces disease and difficulty. It is the unbalanced unfoldment of the centers, their arrested development and their lack of response which creates problems in other cases. It is their premature unfoldment and their overactivity which in other cases brings about danger. It is the failure of the physical mechanism to measure up to the inner unfoldment which causes so much trouble. Thus again you can see the complexity of the subject. The stage of theory is a simple one, except in so far as it sets forces in motion which eventually lead to difficulty. The stage of reaction to response and of adjustment to the theory also institutes a cycle of intense difficulty and complexity, because it leads to a cycle of experiment and experience during which the disciple learns much and suffers much. Then as experience is gained, the stage of spiritual expression supervenes and freedom from danger and emancipation from difficulty and liberation from disease takes place. Simplicity is restored. End of page 275. End of chapter 53.